All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores coming to y'all with a weekly Wednesday update report on the injury situation for both teams. And I'm also bringing y'all some interesting stats and facts towards the end of the video. But the main part of this video is giving y'all the injury report. So far, we only have the Wednesday one because today is Wednesday. So we have a general idea of who may or may not play. But I will give you the updated version tomorrow when I do my full breakdown and preview against the Bucs and how we can beat them. And then on Friday, I give y'all the official injury report where it says who's out and who's questionable. So make sure y'all stay tuned for that. I give y'all those every week. And per usual, our list is a little bit longer than our opponents, but the Buccaneers have a pretty long list, probably a longer list of injury reported players than anybody else we've played so far this season. They have a lot of key contributors either banged up or maybe even potentially out against us, but the same goes for us as well. But we may also have some guys returning from injury who we haven't had for weeks now. So we're going to dive into all of that and more. But before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you check out the rest of the channel. All of my videos are organized in playlists. I even have a comedy playlist for all of my funny videos. And again, I give y'all these injury reports weekly. Every Wednesday, I give y'all the first one. Then Thursday, I give y'all the full breakdown and preview against our matchup, our opponent for that week. And then Friday, I give y'all the official final injury report where it says who's out and who's questionable. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, so first of all, on our side, Curtis Samuel and Montez Sweat did not participate in practice. Montez Sweat, we're expected to not have him back for like around a month, so I'm not surprised. You can already assume he's out against the Buccaneers. And then wide receiver Curtis Samuel with this groin injury, still struggling, still not able to play. So I'm not surprised, but it does suck. And then as far as the limited participants, wide receiver Dyami Brown may get him back. Franchise right tackle rookie Samuel Cosmi may get him back potentially. Antonio Gibson, typically limited in Wednesday's practice like he's been every week all season, but he's played every game. Sammis Reyes, the tight end, may start to see him contribute a little bit more. Brandon Scherff at guard may finally get him back for the first time in a few weeks. Cam Sims, same thing, may finally get him back for the first time in a few weeks. And William Jackson, our technically #1 corner, even though he hasn't necessarily played like it, he looks like he's good to go. He had that knee injury that bothered him throughout training camp and it flared up recently, which is why he's missed the last 2 games. But it looks like he will be back against the Buccaneers unless there's some unforeseen setback. So best case scenario, we have our technically #1 cornerback. We have 2 of our top 6 receivers back. Potentially Sammis Reyes and Antonio Gibson will have a larger role in the offense because J.D. McKissic has been getting a lot of the touches on offense out of all of the running backs. Jared Patterson even got quite a bit of rushes and just overall touches against the Broncos. And then we may finally be getting back a big part of our offensive line. I mean, the entire right side. Granted, we lost Chase Roulier for the season, so maybe Wes Schweitzer, who's been starting at guard for us in place of Brandon Scherff, he may move to center and start at center. But thank goodness we may finally be getting Brandon Scherff and Samuel Cosmi back because that right side has not been the same since. Our offensive line, if you look at advanced statistics, are still playing like a top 5 offensive line, even with Cornelius Lucas and Wes Schweitzer starting on the right side. But it's great to have the true starters back because, again, all that does is just give us better depth at the end of the day. And then the Buccaneers, it's not looking too good. I mean, Bruce Arians just updated us on Antonio Brown and the fact that he still has a walking boot going on, so he's very unlikely to play against us. You have wide receiver Chris Godwin, also quite unlikely. Rob Gronkowski, we'll see. He may play, but if he does, he'll definitely be banged up. And Jason Pierre-Paul, he may or may not play, but it's not looking very likely. And then both cornerbacks D. Delaney and Rashard Robinson were both limited in practice today as in Wednesday, so we'll see if they are able to play. And then Giovanni Bernard, their running back, ex-Bengals running back, fully participated in practice today, and he looks like he should definitely be good to go against us this Sunday. So again, we have more injuries, but a lot of our injuries on the injury report are guys possibly returning, so it may be a little different. And then I know some people may be wondering, well, where is Logan Thomas? Well, for Logan Thomas, it said that he was feeling sore after Monday's individual workout, so he's probably just gonna end up staying on the injured reserve longer. So it sounds very unlikely for him to play against the Buccaneers, but maybe he returns next week. We'll see. But as far as this Buccaneers matchup goes, do not expect Logan Thomas to return again. Now that Sammis Reyes is getting back healthier, maybe he'll have a larger role in the offense, because as of right now, it's been Ricky Seals-Jones playing every offensive snap, John Bates getting in there occasionally, and like no Sammis Reyes at all, if any. And then also, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he had an MRI and it showed some progress on his hip injury, but they still don't have a timetable for return. So it sounds like he may not even be ready before this season ends, because it's just like, we're already halfway through the season and they don't even know when he'll return. Again, there's progress, which is kind of something you expect unless he did something stupid to have a setback. So of course there was going to be progress since week 1, but the fact that there's still no timetable shows that he's still very injured. I mean, like a lot of us have already been saying, the injury that he has, first of all, if he was younger, maybe he doesn't get it, and also if he's younger, maybe he recovers from it sooner. So his age is definitely a factor in this, so do not expect to see Ryan Fitzpatrick at all this season. If he's healthy enough to go, I'm pretty sure they would play him, because it's like at this point we might as well see what we have in Ryan Fitzpatrick before we go get our franchise guy, whether it be through free agency, through a trade, or in the first round of the draft. Whichever route they want to go, they may want to make sure that Ryan Fitzpatrick is not it. So again, if he ends up being healthy at some point before the end of the season, which is not likely, don't be surprised if you see Ryan Fitzpatrick on the field over Taylor Heinicke, because Taylor Heinicke has not done enough for them to be like, you know what, we'll keep rolling with Taylor Heinicke even though Ryan Fitzpatrick is healthy. We pretty much see what Taylor Heinicke is. He's limited in various ways. Again, I've talked about it in videos and live streams where I've done entire breakdowns and pinpointed exactly how he's limited. But just in general, he's a limited quarterback, but he's a very inspiring quarterback. But again, he has not done enough for Ryan Fitzpatrick to come back healthy and for them to keep Ryan Fitzpatrick on the bench. So we'll see. But again, don't be surprised if Taylor Heinicke ends up finishing the season as our starting quarterback, because who knows what Ryan Fitzpatrick's hip injury is going to do. And then also, backup right tackle Saahdiq Charles is going on the reserve COVID-19 list. He's fully vaccinated, so if he can produce 2 negative tests separated by 24 hours each, then he can return. So he may be able to play against the Buccaneers if needed. That's only if like an injury happens. But as of right now, he's slated not to, but he's vaccinated. So again, all he needs is those 2 negative tests, each 24 hours apart, and he'll be good to go. Also, roster move wise, Washington protected 3 practice squad players this week. Defensive end Bumi Rotimi, especially with Montez Sweat out for around a month. Quarterback Kyle Shermer, because it's just Kyle Allen and Taylor Heinicke right now. And offensive tackle David Steinmetz, which makes a lot of sense because Samuel Cosmi may or may not return, who knows, and Saahdiq Charles is on the COVID-19 reserve list. So it makes sense who they kept on their practice squad, because you never know. We may end up seeing Kyle Shermer at some point this season. If the season is lost and we're already to the point where we're playing for draft positioning, it's probably going to get to a point where we start having quarterback tryouts. You'll see some Kyle Allen, you'll see some Kyle Shermer, who knows. And then before we get up out of here, I wanted to give y'all some interesting stats and facts. First of all, with Joey Sly being signed as a replacement for Chris Blewett, who's a replacement for Dustin Hopkins, we'll be using our 3rd kicker in 4 games in an NFL, like regular season. This is not preseason. This is regular season games that count. We're on to our 3rd kicker with no injuries. This is crazy. We're literally having kicker tryouts mid-season. It's insane, but we'll see how this goes. Ron Rivera said that he hopes that Sly can catch on fire and prove him right. We'll see though. Also, speaking of Joe Sly, Dustin Hopkins is a career 84% on field goals over 7 years and is 94% on extra points. Joe Sly is 80% on field goals over 3 years and 88% on extra points, which is literally lower than Dustin Hopkins in both categories. So we'll see how this goes, but it's not looking too swell. The interesting thing with Chris Blewett was that he can make the 45-yarder or longer, it looked like, with ease. Dustin Hopkins, on the other hand, could never kick a field goal that far to save his life, but he would make the shorter ones. Whereas Chris Blewett was kicking in the back of offensive linemen on the shorter field goals. It was like, bro, if we could just bring Dustin Hopkins out for any kick lower than 45 yards or bring Chris Blewett out for any kick further back than 45 yards, we might have been straight. Also, it's very interesting too, Nigga Javala pointed this out, that Virginia Tech is now tied with Alabama for the most players on the Washington football team roster. Virginia Tech has Joe Sly, Logan Thomas, Kendall Fuller, and Tim Settle. And of course, Alabama has Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Landon Collins, and Cam Sims. We had like an Oklahoma thing going for a second too, but all of those guys are gone. And then lastly, Washington is 2-6 since 2013 off of their bye week. So after a bye week, the game they play afterwards, since 2013, we have gone 2-6. We've been outscored 229 to 141 in those games, a negative 88 point differential. So we'll see what happens after this bye week, and going against the Buccaneers isn't the best solution to fixing that and possibly getting a win to make that data just a little bit less terrible, because it's quite likely that we'll end up 2-7 after bye weeks since 2013. But I mean, I guess what's exciting to keep track of, we'll see how good of a kicker Joey Sly is. Like, is he potentially our franchise kicker moving forward for when we're finally better on offense and defense, to where how good our kicker actually is, actually matters. I mean, because I'm not saying that the season is necessarily lost, but we're definitely to the point where we're trying to evaluate talent. Let's look at Taylor Heineke to see if he can be our franchise guy. I mean, we've been doing that, but same thing. Let's see what Derek Forrest and Jeremy Reeves can do at safety before we draft a safety high in the draft, like second round, or trade back up into the late first, like how we got Montez Sweat in the late first a couple of years ago. Because the way Bobby McCain and Landon Collins have been playing, safety is definitely a huge need, especially free safety. Let's see what Jamin Davis and Khaleke Hudson can do out there before we spend a high draft pick on linebacker, and so on and so forth. We're definitely to the part of the season where, again, it's not necessarily hopeless, but I care more about evaluating talent and who deserves to be here, especially in the long haul, so that we can have a better idea of what we need to attack in the offseason, both free agency and the draft. And again, like I pointed out in my previous video, we will have top 6 cap space in the NFL going into this 2022 free agency, so this should get really interesting. And that's even with Landon Collins still on the books. So we may make a splash in free agency, but who knows? We'll see. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. If you liked it, if you learned anything, please leave a like. And also, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Big shouts out to everybody that supports the channel. A special shouts out to everybody that donates to the channel, man. I really appreciate y'all. A special shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. I really appreciate y'all, man. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.